Welcome to the StoryaKids podcast. In this episode, we're diving into the heart of two unforgettable children's books with editor Kimberly Dorugar. These stories inspire hope and resilience, crossing borders to touch readers of all ages. Let's get started.
I honestly, I'm very humbled that you would include me in this. What I did was nothing compared to the effort that you all have
Oh,
put into writing the story and drawing the pictures and putting the whole thing together. It's a beautiful, beautiful, both of them are beautiful pieces of work. And I'm
thank
just as
you.
excited for you that they're being published as I am for the public who gets to read them. It's very exciting.
Inshallah that the audience would love it.
Just in the name of God, Alhamdulillah, I'm so blessed to be here. I'm so thankful Sana and Nagas have contacted me and asked me to be part of this beautiful project. I wish you all the best success and I look forward to seeing it in the public.
Thank you very much. Well, we know that you have worked on the edition of two specific children's books recently, which are published by StoryaKids Publishing House, and we are going to have a deep look at the books and how you were connected to the story and motives of these books. So
Mhm.
let's start with the first question. Would you introduce these books to our audience in your own words? The two books that I can mention them: If I Find My Bike and Once Upon a Wedding Loan.
Right. Both of these books are beautiful stories written uh, with the theme of with the theme of hope. I honestly believe they're set obviously in occupied Palestine. The both books are about children who are dealing with the oppression and the hardships that come, of course, before the recent war in Gaza. Uh, they had some kind of life. Now, unfortunately, they do not. Um, these books, however, for any Palestinian child or any child facing oppression far from their home, would give them a sense of hope. The books I think are aimed for children about the ages of maybe 9 to 12. Younger children would enjoy them being read to them, I believe, and older children would probably understand the deeper sense of longing for their homeland that the characters in the book express. So beautiful efforts by the authors and the illustrators. Well done.
Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, you think that these themes are somehow connected to all the children worldwide, whether they are concerning with the theme of Palestine or not. Am I right?
I do believe so. Yes, I believe any child facing any kind of oppression or abuse or being distant from their homeland, where they feel comfortable as being their home, I think anyone would be able to connect with that story.
Great. And what messages or concepts, especially about Palestine, in your view, are presented in these books for children, and how were you connected to the books?
Um, Personally, I feel that the children in Palestine would appreciate the pictures. They're aimed exactly at the children. I really appreciate how some of the children have hijab on, some of the children do not, because that tends to be a normal life for any Muslim child living in most communities today. I think they would also connect with the stories, which tend to be relative to their own lives and their own experiences. I particularly like the one about the child with the bike wanting to have his mother bake the bread and take it to everyone in the world because mama makes the best bread. And I think every child feels that way about their mother. I know that's one of the reasons that I connected with the story. Was that my experiences with my family and with my homeland and with my culture I wished to share with others. Um, some of the concepts in the story show that we all face difficulties in our lives, we all have hurdles that we need to get past. The one, for example, in If I Find My Bike, was the wall that had been built up, blocking the child from going back to his home and finding his bike. Um, I connected with that as well. Having a hurdle in my life where I cannot reach something that was dear to me. Um, and yet the hope that the story brings that I will eventually get there. It's a very nice, it's a deep concept, and I think people can feel it on many different levels. The simple level of a child looking for his bike, or maybe even the deeper level of a grown up, for lack of a better word, an adult, maybe seeking their relationship with God. You know, we put up
Yeah.
walls. We put up walls in our world between us and God, and we forget how to find them again. And this book
So
gives us
deep
hope.
interpretation of this story.
Yeah, it was a beautiful book. It was just a very beautiful story.
Do you want to add something about Once Upon a Watermelon and how you were connected to the story and the themes of Palestine mentioned in that book?
Mm, Once upon a well, because I do have Palestinian friends, and I do understand that the um, the idea of sharing the watermelon, the idea of finding the watermelon, the idea of just a normal life would reach out to any child, I do believe. Um, so basically, I think both books follow the same kind of theme, right? The happiness, the innocence of a child, and how sad we are that that innocence is taken away. Yeah,
Yeah. Hope that we can take it back, inshallah, very
inshallah,
soon,
inshallah,
especially for the children of Palestine.
inshallah.
And how, in your view, do these books simplify and explain the complex topic of Palestine for young readers?
I think the books themselves just brush on the topic of Palestine. That's what makes them so good for people, for children from all over the world. Some of the things in Once Upon a Watermelon, some of the allusions to Palestine that they make is the color of the flag, which is represented in the color of the watermelon. That's a direct reference to Palestine itself. However, nowhere does the book really indicate that this is only for children from Palestine. I think that is, people are when children are not allowed to be themselves, to celebrate who they are, their culture. For example, young girls in America or in Canada or other Western countries that want to wear their hijab. The Palestinian flag represented in Once Upon a Watermelon can actually represent the scarf that a girl at 9 years or 10 years of age would like to put on her head, but faces difficulties in society doing that.
Yeah. And do the stories incorporate, as you mentioned here, symbols or cultural elements of Palestine? And how are these symbols integrated into the narrative?
Well, like I said, the flag of Palestine is represented by the colors of the watermelon. Um, they, I think that is the biggest connection to Palestine. Um, the Once Upon a Watermelon also does tell a bit of the story of Palestine, where in 1967 the similar event occurred. So it's a historical narrative as well. Um, Although anyone outside of Palestine might not actually know that history, unfortunately. Yeah. But throughout the world, people don't understand the real problem. They put it in the category of Arab versus Israeli. And that's
Yeah,
not really, as we know, it's really not the issue at all. And the ridiculousness of outlawing watermelon um, because of its colors, because it becomes a symbol, it shows the fear of the oppressors. If you're going to outlaw a very simple and delicious fruit that is enjoyed by people all over the world because of its colors, it shows the fear of the faith that the Palestinian people have in their right to
yeah,
have their
exactly.
homeland. Yeah.
Exactly. And how about the symbols you found in the other story? If I find my bike, could you mention
If,
some of them?
if I find my bike, I have to be honest. When I read "If I Find My Bike," my tears just poured down because I felt the symbol of this, the symbolism in this story was so much about how the child is running all over the world. He's running from place to place, wanting someone to hear him, to let him be heard, and he was dreaming. Unfortunately, the story of Palestine is not heard throughout the world. We get the Israeli narrative a lot of times. We get recently we're seeing more pictures, but it's taken a horrible, horrible attack on Gaza and the total destruction of their homes for people to even wake up to the fact that this country is under oppression. Um, yeah, the symbolism of the story just kind of brought tears out. The Palestinians just want to be heard. And this child who was looking for his bike, searching everywhere, was searching for someone to hear him. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Let's go through the professional work that you did during the editing process of these books.
Mm.
I want to know that what challenges did you face while editing these books?
Well, the authors had done a beautiful job of simplifying the language, I think, simplifying the message, I should say. Um, the challenge that I found was to find the right words in the English language, considering the culture behind the English language as well, so that it would not sound foreign for the English reader. And yet it would still carry the message of a life that most English speakers honestly do not understand. The importance of the freedom, the importance of the wall being built, the importance of them being of having lost their bike. I think in the Western world, if a child loses his bike, he goes and buys another. This story really just hammers home that that's not possible for the children of Palestine, or the children of other oppressed areas. Um, the the one thing I did focus on the editing of the story was to keep the target audience in mind. I know that we were aiming at children between the ages approximately of 8 to 12, 9 to 12, and I wanted to make sure that the vocabulary was not too simple, so that they were they were not bored with the story, but it was not too difficult where they were like, well, I don't understand it, I don't want to finish it. So I
Mhm.
think those were the two challenges that I faced: making sure the vocabulary was appropriate to the age, and making sure that the story sounded English, if that makes sense.
Yeah, imagine that if these stories were turned into an animation, what elements would you insist on preserving?
I would insist the elements of the story. I would insist on maintaining the cultural appropriateness. For example, where Mama is serving bread in the "If I Find My Bike" story, I would appreciate the tablecloth being spread on the floor and the family being gathered around it. The bread should
Mhm.
stay the same. The simple elements that show the culture of Palestine, because the setting of the story is important to the meaning as well. Um, I think I would prefer the colors to be very bold, as they are in the written book. I would love to see, especially with Once Upon a Watermelon, the bright red, the deep greens, the stark black. Um, I think they have to be very much emphasized. The clothing of the characters, I think, is very important. Let it be
Yeah,
normal for one child to be wearing a long dress and a scarf, and another child wearing maybe a small hat on his head or something, in reference to their own culture. I think those are the elements that are very important.
thank you. And if the main character of each book wanted to send a video message to children around the world, what do
Uh,
you think they would say?
oh, that's a
For
tricky
example,
one.
from the boy from If I Find My Back, and the other one, Lily, from Once Upon a Watermelon. I
Yeah.
know it's a difficult question.
Yeah. I think if the boy were sending a message, oh, that would be tricky. I think basically he would say, hey, let's get together on this. Just hear my story and let's all be one. We are all the same. It doesn't matter which country we came from, what color our skin is, or what our names are. Let's just get together, hear each other's stories. Um, I think that's what his message would be. Let's stop this. Oh, you're Israeli and I'm Arab. Oh, you're black and I'm white. Oh, you're a girl and I'm a boy. These differences don't really need to matter in our world. They all belong. Um, Lily in Once Upon a Watermelon. Um, hmm, her message is a little bit harder. Her message is one of resistance, of perseverance. Um, I think she was going to say, I'm going to fight for my rights. I'm going to stand up for them. I don't know exactly what she would say. I really liked Lily. I loved her positive outlook. And I think that whatever message she gave children of the world, it would be a positive outlook. Yeah.
Right. Was there a special frame in the story, in each of the stories, that deeply moved or affected you during the editing process?
Well, if let's look at Once Upon a Watermelon first. The story at first kind of had me a bit confused. I was like, what? What's the problem? What's the problem? And then when the children began to draw pictures, I loved that scene where children at the school, I believe, let me find the page. Here, I can read the actual page for you. It says,
Yes, please.
during the usual morning lineup, the students gleefully waved their watermelon paintings and sang Lily's four-colored tune. In every class, teachers doodled smileys and watermelons in children's notebooks. It was a happy day. I think that's where, in this story, my tears actually just started coming down. As a teacher, I love to see my kids happy. I love to see my students happy, but they are happy over acing a spelling test, or getting a smiley on an assignment. These children were happy in that they were representing their homeland. So it was a much deeper message for me. I just loved the story. It was a happy story, even though the message was deep and sad. Um, the theme, I should say, was deep and sad. The message was happy and hopeful, and I really liked that a lot. Um, and if I found my bike, we've all lost things in our childhood. Personally, I lost my father at a young age. Um, when I left home and
I'm
I moved
sorry. I'm
across
so
the world.
sorry.
Thank you. Um, God bless all of your families. It's part of the world, yeah. Um, but you lose things and you wish you could find them back. And when I did leave my home and I moved to across the world to a completely different country, a different culture, a different language, there were moments when I felt like, oh, I just want to see my own flag. I just want to see my own backyard. I want to find my bike. So yeah, I was touched very much by that story. My story was a movement of choice. These children, though, however, don't have that choice. And I think that is what touched me the most, was how much we take for granted the choices that we have in the free world and how much the children actually suffer in the oppressed world.
Yeah. And if a child asks you, why should I read about Palestine? How would you respond?
I would respond as I respond to any why question. Why not? Why not? If you don't know about something, read about it. You don't know about Palestine, read about it. And the stories are not so sad that the children will be put off. It's difficult to deal with sad situations. Um, it's hard to look at someone else's pain and not want to turn and run away from it. These books don't show that pain in an obvious manner. It's a very subtle message that these books give. The story itself is bright and happy, and it flows, but yet the message arrives into the heart of the reader. So if somebody asked me, why should I read these books? I would ask them, why not read them?
If
Mhm.
you could design a four-colored symbol for the story's ending, what would it be and
A
what
four
would it represent?
a four color symbol.
Yeah.
You know what? I cannot create a better symbol than the watermelon itself. I think it's
Mm,
an amazing symbol. It's something that is generally connected to happiness, to carefree days, uh, and we share it. A watermelon is not like an apple that you eat by yourself. It's one that you share with others. So yeah, there's no better symbol for this picture, for this book, than the watermelon itself, with maybe the flag of Palestine flying free in the wind.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I want to talk about the moment that after the editing process, producing the work, you encountered for the first time with the full work being ready to publish, the illustrated book, actually. What
Mhm.
was your feeling, and how did you feel about your work coming to life?
I honestly did not see it as my work. I was just happy to, guide the writers in the right way. I saw these books, and, of course, the version that I edited was black type on white paper. And I got the message of the
Don't
story.
mention
It
it.
touched
You're
my
so
heart.
humble.
No, it was. It was black ink on white paper. When I saw the stories with the beautiful and complete illustrations, very comprehensive, the use of colors, the use of the background and background objects, um, I was elated. I literally jumped out of my chair, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this book! It's amazing. Um,
Oh my God. Happy to
Unfortunately,
hear that.
it's the only thing I have is the one on my phone. So the pictures, I can't wait to see the real thing.
We
And
will
there's
send your copy soon. I promise that. Don't worry.
thank you. I just
Inshallah.
I was just thrilled. I was just amazed. The work that you girls have put into this, or you people, I'm not sure who all was involved. I know that Sana and Nagas have put their lives into this book, I think. Um, your creativity, your hope, your heart that you put into this book just made me so proud to just stand behind you and support you in this effort. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And how do you think that children's books about Palestine can influence the global understanding of this topic?
It makes the two books that I have seen that I've worked on with you. Um, they show the children of Palestine as real people, not any different than any child in any country in the world. The best way, I think, to reach the next generation is by showing them there's nothing weird, there's nothing scary about the other side of the world, the people from the other side of the world. um, Differences are disconcerting for a child. They're used to seeing, when they're babies, they're used to seeing one color of eyes, one color of skin, one they're used to hearing one type of voice. So when something strange comes in, it might be a little bit frightening for them. These books open up that opportunity for people from a closed world to see people from other sides and to realize that they're just like me. There's no difference. Um, I think that's the best thing that we can do. Through children's books, we reach the next generation. They will grow up knowing the children of Palestine as their friends, their classmates, the people that they ride bikes together with. And when the press in the news, they will say, "Hey, wait a minute. This can't be. Those are my friends. I remember them from these books." I think that's the best way. Just through the children's book, we'll reach the next generation. Hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Inshallah. Can these books inspire Palestinian children to build a better future? And if so, how?
Palestine right now, considering the West Bank and considering Gaza, I think it would be very difficult for Palestinians, whether adults or children, anywhere in the world, to have any kind of hope for a homeland. I think these stories for Palestinian children who live in other countries, I think these stories would show them that they have a right to a home, and hopefully, God willing, inshallah, they will have one in the future. It tells them don't give up hope. Don't give up hope. And I think also it gives them something to be proud of. It's a piece of their culture that they can be proud of. They don't deserve what's happening to them. And children generally take bad things in the world as something they've caused. It's their fault that this happened. And I would hope that these stories would erase that from their minds. They don't understand the bad guy idea, that there's a bad guy bombing me. What did I do? Why are you doing this to me? These stories, I think, are going to help erase that, make them proud that they are Palestinians, make them proud of the fight that they have been fighting for decades now, almost a century, we can say.
Yeah, thank you. And last but not the least, as a
Mm,
professional editor that have been working in this field for many years, what
mm.
advice would you give to writers or editors who want to work on sensitive social and political topics in children's literature?
The most important thing is as you all have done with these two books, present the story in a manner that is not threatening to the child, so that they feel that they are part of the story themselves. Um, that will make them sympathetic and connected to the people in the story, the characters in the story, which hopefully then will lead to a connection to such people in the world as well. Um, when you are writing, try to keep the story as simple and uncomplicated as possible. Children don't do well with complications. They just see things black and white, sort of. Um, Keep the story uncomplicated, which is what I love, particularly about If I Find My Bike. I love the way the story keeps going back to Mama's bread is the best bread in the world. I love how it keeps going back to I'm going to share this with everybody. It's a sad, like I said, the underlying message is sad. It's kind of dark that I'm trying to share and nobody hears me, nobody wants it. But the idea that it's hopeful and continues, that will attract a child. And I think they would look into their own lives. Children of all ages and children of all communities feel that they are not heard at some point in their life. That's the message that we want to get across. It's important that you be heard. Um, yeah, I think that would be it. And just put your heart into it. Imagine yourself as a child. What would you want to read? What would you want to understand? Yeah.
At last, would you like to add anything? Yeah, you would like to add anything? We will be glad to hear from you about the
Oh,
books,
thank you.
about the editing process, whatever, about the Palestine, whatever you like.
All I can say, please, is keep Palestine and the children, especially, in your prayers, as they are in mine. Inshallah, God knows what He's doing. Inshallah, He will give the result that we want sooner rather than later. Authors and illustrators, please keep these beautiful books coming. I think they're very important to get out there. Make them appropriate for children anywhere so that it doesn't feel like we are separating them into a category all their own. They're children. Children are children everywhere. And please, if you do this kind of work, contact me. I love to be a part of this wonderful creative process.
Thank you for joining us on the StoryaKids podcast. We hope this conversation inspired you to discover the power of stories in connecting hearts and fostering understanding. Don't forget to explore our featured books, If I Find My Bike and Once Upon a Watermelon, available now at StoryaKids.com. Until next time, keep reading, let your stories flow, and may the magic of words bring us closer together.